Welcome to another episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Are we talking OTAs? Or are we talking about this Denver Broncos team being a Super Bowl contender with the roster they put together? Greenlaw, Hufanga, Ingram, Barron, Harvey, Bryant. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? And if that's the case, why is J.K. Dobbins coming in? Getting a look. All that and more. Get your comments, your questions, your thoughts as we go live. Let's go. Welcome into the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Man, it's going to be another fantastic episode, as it always is. Man, it's a Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. It seems like it's been forever. I'm back on. My name's Keith Brugman, but I'm not alone. I got my good, trusty friend on a Tuesday night, the Rocket Man himself, Mr. Trevor Salzman. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, Keith, and love the drum roll, by the way. You kind of look like you were a deer in headlights when the camera came on. But no, excited to be here and talk Broncos again. I mean, we talked about guys, players running around in shorts and jerseys, and that's great and all. But I'm ready to talk about, and we're ready to talk about, and that's why our agenda kind of came in tonight. Are the Broncos serious Super Bowl contenders? How has their Super Bowl window truly opened? I think it's a question that we've got to ask ourselves now, because we're right around the corner to the start of a long season. Again, we got a couple weeks, of course, of this, running around shorts and helmets and whatnot. But it'll be here before we know it, Keith. Excited to be here and excited to have everybody in the posse watching us tonight.
Yeah. Excited for all the comments, questions, ideas, thoughts that are coming in. Because let's face it, I've heard reels, I've seen videos, I've heard podcasts about, RJ Harvey's looking great. Evan Ingram's looking great. Look at this player and that player. But like we were talking about, man, what are we talking about? Right before we went on, what are we talking about? We're talking about a guy in a helmet, uncontested, catches. And, there's only so much we can take from this. This is all about installment. This is whether these guys get it. They're getting the foundation. And that's about it. Yes, it's great that they're not dropping balls, I guess. It's great that, Bo Nix isn't out there throwing wounded ducks, but we're talking about whether this team can be a, Super Bowl contender. We're way past that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, Evan Ingram, Barron, Harvey, Bryant, these are the names that we started to have put on this roster. That's 6 big names, Trevor. Where is this roster going to take us? That's what I really want to know. I want to really want to know from not only you, but I want to know from our posse. And I got our posse rocking it early and often, like Mr. Ernie Mays saying, go Broncos country only. Go Bo Nix for 6, 13-4-0. 31 teams, small. Hello to the 4 horsemen. It's only 2 tonight. Hope that'll do. Hope that's enough for you, Ernie. We're going to try to rock it out here, but we always rock it, it seems like, with Mr. Michael Ronquillo, who's coming in here with 100 stars, just saying good evening to Keith and Trevor and saying go Bo Broncos, giving us those blue and orange hearts, giving us the mile high salute, coming in here like he always does, man. Appreciate you, Michael. Michael, it means a ton. You know it. We respect you. We love you and hope you're a part of this big conversation that we're having tonight of whether this team is a Super Bowl contending roster. from top to bottom. I'll even give a little benefit of the doubt. Let's contend that most of these players stay healthy, right? Because let's face it, that's going to be a big question as we start off the season, Trevor. A huge, huge question. I'm going to get into a few more. Aloha boys from Mr. Patrick Wiltsey. I would love Super Bowl, but I would really just ask for solid play and contention. We need to be in contention. He's looking small steps, saying, Keith, Trevor, maybe you're setting that bar a little too high this evening, right? Let's set it high. You know, I watched our good friend Kurt Valente on his last show. He was adamant about, you know, enough being the nice guy. You know, enough being, hey, let's hope we all win. And, you know, let's, you know, I'm going to root for your team and I'm going to root for your team. And as long as you're not playing us, let's root for the other guy. There's a little bit of that in this, a little bit of what we're talking about in this as well tonight, Trevor, about when is enough enough? When does this team turn the corner? When do they become a Super Bowl contending champion? I want to get to more comments, but I've talked long enough. I'm going to get a little bit of a sip, and I'll let you take the mic on what your thoughts are around all of what I just spewed out there, all right?
First and foremost, Mr. Patrick Wiltsey ended up sending 200 stars, Keith, so I wanted to give a shout-out to Patrick as well. Patrick, thank you for everything that you do for us. We really appreciate you, and hope that our conversation continued to roll tonight. But yeah, Keith, it's almost like the honeymoon phase right now, right? I mean, all these players, all these additions, we went through free agency, you went through the draft, and it's like, well, yeah, these guys are playing so well and whatnot with, you know, they're running out there in shorts and again in a helmet, but it's like, it's the honeymoon phase. Like, it's like when you get married to somebody, you have that honeymoon phase, and then it's like reality hits. This is the honeymoon phase, and this is fine. Every team goes through it, right? And then you hit, you know, training camp, and you start putting pads on. It's like, okay, this is reality. And so for me, like, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, a lot of solid additions the Broncos made this offseason. But again, these guys, a lot of it is, hey, can they stay healthy? Because make no mistake about it, the Broncos did go out there and sign. The guys they did sign, Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, all these guys have injury issues, and they've had an injury history in the past. So whether we talk about injuries or not, it's still going to follow them going forward. And it's one of those questions, at least I have, going to next season, where can these guys stay healthy? Because make no mistake about it, those teams, opposing teams that they were on in the past, let them go for various reasons. But one of those concerns might have been injury issues.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't going to sneak that past you, Trevor.
No.
I was going to try. I was like, we're going to like just pretend that these guys stay relatively healthy. And Trevor's like, no, Keith, that's still going to be a concern. And you're right, man. It's going to be a concern. We're going to have to keep that in context, you know, week after week, you know, kind of biting our nails in some ways, or waiting on bated breath, or crossing our fingers and knocking on wood, you know, week after week until we feel comfortable, right? Until these guys are out there and it just seems like they're in the flow, right? That's going to be where we're at for a little while. I'm going to try to put it in the background in this conversation, but you're absolutely right, Trevor. We just can't, you know, push it to the side and pretend it doesn't exist. Like you said, would Evan Ingram be on this team? Would he have hit free agency if he was 100% healthy tight end? That's questionable, man.
Mm-hmm.
Would Dre Greenlaw have just been out the door in San Francisco, or Hufanga, if they would have been 100% healthy individuals? I wouldn't bet on that one. I wouldn't put any pizza money, as our good friend Kurt Valente would say, or Kenny Kirkpatrick, one of the horsemen. You know, so yeah, I mean, we're getting these guys in the door, one, because we're a great organization, two, because a lot of these guys have talked about the coach, the quarterback, you know, the culture of this team. Things are going in the right direction. That's why they have chose this team. But also we're getting them in because they happen to be available because of one reason or another, and part of it being maybe injury. talking about adding to this roster, because Mr. Phil McLaughlin's coming in here and he's coming in here with stars, and it pulls right into what I talked about right into the intro. He says, "Good evening, Keith and Rocket Man." Big exclamation points. Appreciate that. Coming in there a lot more excited than I just said it. You guys ready for Dobbins to be signed? J.K. Dobbins came in here, Trevor. He did leave unsigned, but I did raise the question, if this roster is Super Bowl ready, what are we talking about J.K. Dobbins coming in here for? What role do you think J.K. Dobbins would play if he's signed? And kind of to allude to what Phil's saying, are you ready for him to be signed? Is that the right move?
I don't know if it's the right move or not, Keith. I would just say I think that the door is open for whoever's going to be that second running back alongside RJ Harvey. In my opinion, I think this is maybe I'm wrong on this too, but I think that this could be a concern for maybe Audric Estime. Maybe the fumbles, are starting to kind of tick up a little bit. We will never know. But here's the thing: is we didn't hear about J.K. Dobbins. He's been out there in the free agent market for a while. We haven't heard about the Broncos being interested in him this whole offseason up until now. Now they're interested in him. Why? You were able to see Audric Estime and some of these running backs on the field. Again, they weren't in pads yet, but you're able to kind of see what they had. Is there concern in that running back room? Who knows? I mean, Sean Payton's not going to come out to the media and say that. I mean, it's the whole goes back to the whole thing of, hey, don't just believe what they say, believe what they do. Hey, they got interest in J.K. Dobbins. They brought him into the facility to see, hey, maybe this is a fit. You already have a running back room where what we say right now, you have RJ Harvey, you have Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Bidet, and Blake Watson. So you have 5 running backs on this roster right now, and you're talking about bringing in another one. Oh, by the way, a veteran running back. So he's not going to sit in the back of the roster and just not play. He's obviously going to play alongside one or maybe 2 of these running backs you already have on the roster. So for me, it's like, who are you pairing him up with? I think it's obviously you want RJ Harvey to see the field. You drafted him in the 3rd round. You drafted him early enough. You want to see him on the field and play. For me, I think it's about, hey, if you sign J.K. Dobbins, maybe there's concern in that running back room. I would point to more Audric Estime, but maybe it's somebody else. For me, just in general, Keith, though, it's just that concern in that running back room. You're bringing in J.K. Dobbins for a reason. It's not just because he's been sitting out on the market, because he's been out on the free agent market for a while now.
All right. Well, I'll say this from reports that I heard, and maybe one reason that J.K. Dobbins is brought in is that Blake Watson wasn't on the field with the rest of the running backs. He was on the side field. If anybody knows what the side field means, that usually means that you're rehabbing and you're not 100%. Now, is J.K. Dobbins the replacement for Blake Watson? Yeah, that's maybe an uneven comparison, as I can see in your eyes, right? But I also ask, where is J.K. Dobbins in his free agency run? How many other visits has he went on? What value does J.K. Dobbins have on the market right now? J.K. Dobbins isn't the elite signing that it would take to get him in the door. I don't think, as you said, that J.K. Dobbins, if he's signed, needs obvious touches. At this point, J.K. Dobbins comes in my opinion, on a pretty good value. And if he's limited use, we really don't see him. If he ends up being like some of these other signings that we've seen from Sean Payton, where we're like, oh, A.T. Perry, Sean Payton guy. All right, we're going to see some A.T. Perry. And we don't see a lick of A.T. Perry. I think he gets a little bit more than that. But if J.K. Dobbins comes in, I'm not signing him up for elite number of touches for this offense. I think he's coming in at this point as, again, kind of a security blanket. He does bring something to, I think, this roster that maybe you don't have. I'll say one thing when it comes to Audric Estime in comparison. He holds on to the ball a little bit better than what we've seen Audric Estime so far.
Mhm.
So, he's a great goal line back. He could be a great blocker, something that RJ Harvey doesn't bring, but I don't think he's bringing in and just demanding touches a big salary or anything like that. J.K. Dobbins right now is on, unfortunately, whether we love him, hate him, think he'll be an elite piece of this offense or not. I don't think he's coming in, demanding a whole lot, whether it be dollars or touches.
Mhm. For me, he just came off a 900-yard season and a pretty good season with the Chargers. I mean, that's the thing for me. It's like, I look at it from the J.K. Dobbins perspective. I'm saying, why would I sign with the Broncos if I don't have a fair chance to see the field? Why wouldn't I just kind of set it out rest of up until training camp? Maybe there's an injury and I get a chance. I think that there's more to it. Like, hey, he's gonna get touches if they sign J.K. Dobbins. I think that they're going to give him the touches that he needs. And again, you're playing RJ Harvey. It makes no sense to draft him in the third round and not see the field and get his fair share of touches. You have to keep this in mind too, Keith. Sean Payton likes to use multiple running backs. I think they'll at least keep 4 probably on the roster. And so I think J.K. Dobbins, if you're bringing him in as a veteran, and maybe that's the reason you would bring a guy like J.K. Dobbins in. He's had success in the NFL. Last season, he was a successful season for him. Unfortunately, this draft had a lot of depth at running back. And so I think that kind of hurt this free agent class, the running back class anyways. And so he's unfortunately, like Nick Chubb and some of these other guys, are sitting out there on the open market and they just don't have a job yet. Not saying they can't, find somewhere else because there's always injuries around the NFL. So I just clearly, if they signed him, he would be, get playing time. I guess that's my whole point of it is there. But him walking out the facility, I think there's something there. I think Sean Payton's, I think they still do like their running backs in the room. I just like, hey, you're kind of flirting with a veteran in case maybe you want to bring one in, because right now you don't have really a J.K. Dobbins up to where like his playing experience is and what he's done in the NFL on this roster currently. So maybe there is something like, hey, we're going to bring in a veteran running back, a trusted veteran, guy like J.K. Dobbins, and again, doesn't fumble. I mean, he just doesn't. He takes care of the football. That drives Sean Payton crazy is when you fumble the football and you put the ball on the ground. We've seen that with Audric Esme last year.
Yes, we did. We saw it, and people won't necessarily remember, but there was a couple of instances in preseason, not just the regular season, where Audric Estime had fumbling issues. So you start racking up statistics that don't necessarily, show when you go into Pro Football Reference or wherever you're getting your stats, and you see what the coaches see, and it does become a little bit concerning. You know what I mean? I know that this coaching staff would love to see Audric Estime make that next step. Maybe this is just a push, and we don't know. But, I think I still go back to in our heyday when the Broncos were truly good. It seemed like we were able to attract good talent, left, right, and otherwise, sign some of them and put them on our team. I saw a comment a little bit earlier. I'm going to get to a few others, though, that, we're not aware of the salary cap. I'll tell you, whether it comes to Trevor or myself, we're the ones that are always looking at that. We're the ones that are never wanting to push money down the road. We're the ones that are always skeptical about how we're going to make the things happen and what it's going to cost us, especially not only this year, but in the future. Because that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about, hey, I'd love to go out there and sign CeeDee Lamb. Well, yeah, what's that going to cost you if you sign CeeDee Lamb tomorrow, Trevor? Mm-hmm. It's going to cost you so much in the future that it's unattainable. Mm-hmm. J.K. Dobbins is not an unattainable asset for the Denver Broncos where they sit in the salary cap. The maneuvering they can do does bring into questions things like Nick Bonito and when deals get done as far as, Broncos on this roster. Once you start trying to, really fulfill a roster, like adding a guy like J.K. Dobbins to this team. Mm-hmm. But, it is attainable even as we sit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's very affordable. It's not even about the money situation because right now the Broncos, at least under the Sean Payton era, and this I think where George Payton kind of comes in, Keith, where like Sean Payton, George Payton work really well together. I think they've been able to manage the cap pretty well, just going, under the circumstances that they had to deal with the whole Russell Wilson, $85 million dead cap hit that they had to take over the next past couple years, and they will again this year. Part of that cap hit, anyways. I think they've done a pretty good job with the cap and be able to have flexibility. George Payton uses that word pretty often, flexibility. We've got to have flexibility so we can maneuver around. Hey, if an injury happens, we can go sign a veteran or go sign a guy on the open market and be able to do that. We're not going to handicap ourselves though with money and with our resources. We got to be able to use our resources wisely.
I agree, man. 100%. I think that they're in check, and to add to that, being devoid of first-round draft picks on top of that and having to try to put a competitive team on the field also makes it that much more difficult. We could be in a lot worse case. I wanted to get to this one. Graham came in. He's came in with a lot of comments, but right after this, Pearl's coming in, who's also coming in with a lot of comments. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Pearl. But Graham's saying, very curious to see how our run game does in 2025. We know the pieces that are in place right now, Trevor. We're going to look for a Super Bowl run. This is probably one of the larger question marks, I guess, you could have, especially when you're bringing in a guy like J.K. Dobbins. How curious are you, and what are your expectations of this running back room in 2025, and can they help carry this team through a great regular season enough to get into the playoffs and possibly make that run to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. They're going to, I'm pulling up their rushing stats from last season. I mean, Javonte Williams, Keith, led this team with 513 rushing yards, led this team in the whole season last year in this running back room. They've got to be better. There's no choice around it. I don't see this team winning and getting lucky as they did last year. I mean, Bo Nix really we've talked about it a ton last year. He had a lot of pressure on him to be able to produce. If he didn't produce, the offense wasn't moving the football. They've got to be able to run the football a lot better this year. You can't have another season of, hey, we're going to run for 500 yards, and that's our leading rusher on the season. Cannot happen. You have to be able to use your running backs and pick the right amount of running backs. I think that maybe that's part of this scenario as well, Keith. Like the whole J.K. Dobbins thing is you got to get that running back room right. And you got to get that running back room right for not only this offense, but for Bo Nix. Got to be able to take the pressure off of Bo Nix. I know Sean Payton likes to throw the football. I understand that. But you still got to be able to run the football and keep the defense honest. Graham, to answer your question, they've got to be much better this year. And I think that they will, Keith, and then the upside's a lot higher this year because I like the investment in R.J. Harvey. I wasn't high on the guy they drafted, but I'm starting to kind of warm up to him a little bit. I think there's upside there. And, hey, you invested into a running back now. You took him in the third round. To me, that's investment because you're not going in the next year with Javonte Williams coming off an Achilles injury or a season-ending injury, and having undrafted guys like Jaleel McLaughlin, Blake Watson, kind of just riding out with that. You would actually invest into a running back this year. You took advantage of a deep running back class. And so I think that really did raise this team's ceiling in that running back room. I think there's more to be made, I think, this year. And I think Sean Payton wants to get that right this year.
I think you're right. The one thing that I would add to this is I think there's like a multi-level equation, right? Because the addition of Evan Ingram could be the biggest key that unlocks the running back production, in my opinion. We've had zero threat. There has been no reason for anyone to help on a tight end, to overly respect a tight end in what looks like maybe a running situation. If you have a demanding tight end on the field in what looks like a running situation, changes completely. I'm going to get to this, and it's just this. Sometimes statistics just lie. Sometimes statistics just don't feel right, Trevor. I want to get your thoughts on this, man. We got, a little bit of time before our sponsor break here, because this ties right in. Our offensive line was rated the number one run blocking group among all 32 teams. Do you feel like that is the case? I know statistically, if they put in their little algorithms It spits out that number, and I'm proud to be near the top.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like we have the number one run blocking offensive line in front of whoever this running back room is going to, have produced behind them?
Mm-hmm. I think that you have a top unit in the NFL. Numbers again, and like, oh, we got the number one unit, number two unit in the league. I think you have a top unit in the league. I think you are. This offensive line's played good enough to where I think you should be able to run the football. And this is the problem I think you had last year with Javonte Williams, and why you kind of seen Sean Payton go back to him at times, and then you would see Blake Watson in there at times. You would see just a number of different running backs in there. Because I think he was just trying to see what he had. I mean, you can't have your running back running into the back of your offensive lineman multiple times or not see a window that's there or a cutback that's there. That's a running back's job, vision. You got to be able to have vision. You got to be able to cut the ball back if there's an opening there. And so I think this offensive line has played well enough, and I think it is a top unit in the NFL to where you should be able to run the football a lot better than you did. I just think the personnel last year maybe wasn't quite where it needs to be. This year, though, I mean, it's not a complete clean slate. Of course, it's not, because you're still bringing back Tyler Bidet, Blake Watson, at least as of right now. We'll see if they actually make the 53-man roster. But as of right now, pretty much the same group other than RJ Harvey. And we'll see with the whole J.K. Dobbins situation. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you have an offensive line that ain't going anywhere anytime soon, at least as of right now. I mean, you have them in place. So you have to be able to find the right running back to get that mix going and be able to run the ball consistently enough. I do, though, Keith, to answer your question, I do think that offensive line is and has played good enough. Now, there's times that when we've watched film, and we've talked about it backstage, when watching film on this offensive line, yes, they do miss blocks here and there. Yes, it's not always perfect. And maybe there wasn't a big of a gap there that should have been there for these guys. But I think overall wise, just film, taking stats out, from a film perspective, from what I've watched, at least in my opinion, they have played well enough to where you can be able to run the football better and get more yards and be able to just be able to have more of a balanced offense attack.
They should be able to get more than 516 yards out of
Yeah.
their leading rusher. That's what you're thinking, Trevor?
Yeah.
Those are really high expectations there. No, you're right, man. You're right. They are one of the top talented groups. I'm not going to say they're not, but I also felt at times it's like, there's some teams out there that blow open some holes and get some running lanes for their running backs. And it never felt like we were like blowing open lanes for any particular running back, Javonte, like you said, maybe didn't see the cutback. Maybe for some reason was running into it, the back of his own offensive lineman to maybe help push and, jump out from behind there. That was maybe the hope, but never seemed to be the case. But we should absolutely see better production out of this running game. There's no excuse. There's no reason. It would be unfathomable if our leading rusher went sub 500 this coming season. And that's why it's maybe unfathomable that this was a top producing, run blocking unit in front when you have your leading rusher have 516 yards. Seems like there's something that's mismatched there a little bit too. I get that the running back has got to produce, but I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping that we're a number one unit. I would say, if I had to put a number on it, top 8, top 10 for sure. Maybe top 8 is where I would go. Just kind of in that range. But number one, it's hard for me to swallow with a 516-yard leading rusher last year, and Bo Nix being sometimes the leading rusher game after game. That just doesn't equate to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think the coaching staff, at least in my opinion, and then just the organization, I think organizationally they think that it's part of it's also the running backs, and because you did invest in RJ Harvey, you did bring a different running back in, and I mean, from all accounts, probably going to be your starting running back. at least going to get a good amount of touches anyways. And you didn't bring back Javonte Williams. So, and if they thought that it was the offensive line, then I think there would have been bigger changes to that offensive line. So I do think it was the running backs in part. Also, Sean Payton's got to be a little bit better about sticking to that running game when it's working. I think that for me, it's one of my questions for Sean Payton this year is like, hey, can you stick to the run game a little bit more if it's working against opposing defenses? I get you want to pass the ball around and you love Bo Nix. I understand that for sure. But hey, keep that run game going if it's working.
Big ask, buddy. Might be a big ask, but we'll find out. We'll find out, man. We'll find out. But we don't need to find out about a few things, man. One of the things we don't need to find out about is our amazing sponsor, Morgan Trinkets. They've been around for 34 years. Nothing to find out there, man. They're obviously the leader in Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, and estate gold at wholesale prices. Like I said, once a nationwide company doing it for 34 years, now they're just in your backyard, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming. They do amazing shows. They do gem shows. They do dog shows. This weekend, they're going to be out at Boulder County Fairgrounds all the way through Sunday, right out there in Longmont, Colorado. If you're not able to get out to the Boulder County Fairgrounds in Longmont, Colorado, what are you to do? Don't worry, man. We got you all taken care of. Head on over to Etsy and type in Morgan Trinkets Co. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. over on Etsy, and bam, you're there checking out everything that Pearl has to offer. From that Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, and estate gold at wholesale prices to the silver they have, 100% sterling silver that they have to offer. All orders over $50 are shipped absolutely free, and all major credit cards are accepted. Please check out Morgan Trinkets if you happen to be in Longmont, Colorado, out at that Boulder County Fairgrounds show. And if not, check them out over on Morgan Trinkets. They'll get you all hooked up for what you need in Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, and estate gold at wholesale prices. Man, I love Morgan Trinkets because they've been an amazing sponsor of us. I love Pearl. She's been in here talking all evening as well. I do want to get into a few more thoughts, ideas, and questions. You guys are just absolutely blowing up the chat, so I'm trying to pick these out and make sure that we don't leave anybody out. But Keith Stober came in, and I haven't seen Keith's name in a little bit of time. He wants to know, what do you think about the special teams this season? I'm going to start off this one, man. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about the special teams. I think we're locked in with Lutz. I love that we went out and actually invested in a punter. If we were going to lose one, we need to gain one of significant value. And this is the guy that's been hand-selected by the hand-picked guy by Sean Payton in one Mr. Darren Rizzi to go out there and lock down Crawshaw. Sorry. I always want to say Crawshaw. And this is the guy that's, honestly, he's got a huge leg. One of the things that me and Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick absolutely love in those old school punters is the ability to get the maximum amount of length out of it, but put it out of bounds. It used to be called the coffin kick back in the day, and it's almost unheard of. And it's something that Crawshaw can do. If we double those things up, the big leg, the big hang time, putting it out of bounds at the 1 yard line after a 66-yard punt, it just completely changes everything. I know that we lost a little bit of a gunner in and you'll have to remind me of the name because all of a sudden it's blanking of me. But if you remember it there, Trevor.
Tremont Smith.
Thank you. But I think that we also can make up for that. We got the guy that was the former Dolphin, former Viking, and I'm also forgetting his name. I should have all these names written down if I'm going to be talking about him. But that was the only turnover that I really saw that I'm concerned about, Trevor. I think, honestly, I'm excited about our special teams this year. Oh, by the way, Caleb Lohner blocks punts in his college career, too. So if you're looking for a little extra on the special teams, maybe it's Caleb Lohner as well. Trevor, I'll let you take it away. What do you think for Mr. Keith Stober over on Facebook about our special teams?
Yeah, and thank you, Keith, for watching. We really appreciate it. And Keith loves our hats as well, so that's awesome, Keith. Really appreciate you joining in on the show. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was pretty harsh with Riley Dixon leaving, and the Broncos just, I mean, again, they tried to get him back, but he ended up leaving. Unfortunately, in free agency, I think that's a top 10 punter in the NFL, in my opinion. I think Crawshaw, we'll see what he can do. I mean, for me, got to see him on the field first and foremost. I mean, I know there's highlights on him and whatnot. I get that, but I actually need to see him on the field and see what he can do. In game action. I mean, certainly got big shoes to fill with Riley Dixon leaving. Obviously, with Will Lutz, I mean, that's Sean Payton's guy, and he's been really solid for the Broncos ever since he got in Denver. So for me, I mean, I like that Sean Payton. One of my positives about Sean Payton is he prioritized special teams. He talks about it. It's not a forget kind of thing. Like we can talk about offense, you can talk about defense, and some of these kind of fantasy stats that get brought up, but what doesn't get brought up for some of these head coaches around the league, and maybe isn't more of a priority for them, is special teams. Sean Payton, what I love about Sean Payton is he prioritized special teams, bringing Darren Rizzi in. And we talked about it, Keith, when it happened. I mean, he just one of the best special teams coordinators in the NFL, and you'd be able to bring him in and be able to get his punter, the guy that he wanted. He wanted Crawshaw. He wanted some of these guys they were able to get in free agency. On special teams, so I think that's huge. And I mean, we'll see. Time will tell how great this special teams unit will be, but knowing that you have a head coach that's pretty strict on having a good special teams unit, I think will be huge, and is huge for the Denver Broncos and the amount of success that they can have going forward.
I agree, man. It seems like special teams, if you watch Sean Payton's career, his career arc has always been almost a top priority.
Yeah.
And maybe, honestly, if you think about it, if you're building your team, it's tough to get an elite offense. It's tough to get an elite defense. How tough is it to get an elite special teams unit, Trevor? That's probably the easiest unit to build. And honestly, one of the less expensive. And honestly, it's 1/3 of the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're producing on that special teams, that's kind of a hidden little gem that I don't think a lot of people talk about, man. I'm thinking about this right now. It's all hitting me. It's like, why aren't we doing this more often, man? Because this is a place that we could invest a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Ronquillo, though, is brought up a fantastic point. I think he brought it up with 100 stars at the same time. But it rewinds to that offensive line conversation we're having just a few moments ago. And I think he's hit the nail on the head here, man. I told you at the top of the show, man. Michael Ronquillo just coming in here saying hello, giving us the mile high salute. No, he comes in with the knowledge. The returning offensive line for quarterback Bo Nix is big for his second season in the NFL with the Denver Broncos. And I think, Michael Ronquillo, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I don't think there's probably anything more significant for a returning quarterback in his second year coming off his rookie season than knowing every single guy in front of him. More important than that tight end that's supposed to be the quarterback's best friend, especially as a rookie, or that running game that's supposed to be so great. And knowing those guys in front of you, how they protect you in a second year, I think Michael hit it right on the head, man. And if you did it with 100 stars, you benefited us in two ways, my friend, in my opinion. Trevor, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can't hurt. I mean, right? I mean, going a second straight season with the same offensive line all the way around. I mean, it's not, you didn't bring in anybody new onto this starting offensive line, at least. I think it was absolutely huge for Bo Nix. Michael, you're absolutely right. And I also love that Denver they've invested in that offensive line. They continue to. I mean, yes, they haven't drafted an offensive lineman in a long time, and they certainly don't like to draft centers relatively high, of course. But I mean, I think it just does say a lot when you are able to do a reach and a contract extension to bring back Garrett Bowles. You're able to kind of keep Ben Powers around, Mike McGlinchey around, pay Quinn Miners long-term, big money long-term, I should say. So, I mean, just this offensive line, though, being able to help Bo Nix, but also Bo Nix helps this offensive line. This is what I absolutely love about Bo Nix, and I love about him when he was in college. Gets the ball out quickly, and when there's not a play there, Keith, for the most part, he makes the smart read. He just throws the ball out of bounds, and he doesn't take sacks. He doesn't take losses that often, and he doesn't hold on to the football forever. I mean, he doesn't. He's able to get the ball out quick, and I think that helps your offensive line a lot more. And your offensive line is probably going to love you a lot more and just be able to step up a lot more for you when you're able to get the ball out quicker. And that's just what something Bo Nix excels at. And so yes, Bo Nix, that offensive line helps out Bo Nix, but also Bo Nix helps that offensive line out by getting that football out quickly.
Well, you bring up a great point, Trevor, because as you were talking about Bo Nix throwing away the football, I was just reminded time and time again with the prior quarterback to Bo Nix, me just like yelling, just throw it out of bounds. Just throw it out of bounds. Please, just throw it out of bounds. And it never seemed to get through all the way through to the television, all the way to his earpiece, but we didn't throw it out of bounds all that often, and it used to frustrate me considerably. And that was a huge change when all of a sudden we went to Bo Nix. All of a sudden, Bo Nix, like you said, seems to know instinctively as a rookie what's important in a football game when he has possession of the football. Mm-hmm. Don't take sacks. If you got to throw it out of bounds, you got to get it past the line of scrimmage. You got to be outside the tackle box. Things like this. We couldn't ask for much better. And you're absolutely right. I think that this offensive line benefits from Bo Nix. Absolutely benefits from Bo Nix. I wanted to get to one other one because it was an earlier comment. So I'm just going to see if I can find it. But the comment was our biggest concern right now, or our biggest I'll just say concern until I find the comment, is Riley Moss. I want to get your thoughts. We've been talking about a ton about offense. Thank you. Look at you, man. Trevor's getting me taken care of on the other side, man. We're trying to play co-producers over here as we're trying to surf out all your stars. Appreciate y'all doing that and surf out all these fantastic comments. But Riley Moss is the weakest link in the team. Is Riley Moss the weakest leak in the team? As what is that? A Roomy is over on YouTube. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, for me, I don't think he's the weakest link. I think there's more pressure on Riley Moss to step up, though, with Denver drafting Jahadae Barron. I do think that's the case in there because Jahadae Barron, Keith, can move around. He can play inside and he can play outside. I think for me, the biggest thing for Riley Moss is and I know I say this a lot, but it's just got to stay healthy. Got to be able to stay on the field. And I know it's tough when you're playing a full 17 games, and it's tough for players to play a full 17 games all the time. But if you're Riley Moss, you don't have a lot to lose. You have Jaquan McMillan also in the secondary who can take over in the slot at any point in time. Jahadae Barron can move around. You have PS2 already as your number one corner. I mean, it's Riley Moss. Big season for him this year. I think he's got to be able to maintain what he did last season and maybe even not even maybe, he's got to be better. Can't have games against T. Higgins where you're just getting manhandled out there. And just, you just can't be able to put your defense in that kind of situation. You got to be able to be more of a lockdown cornerback and be able to develop. So I think Riley Moss, that's one of the things I'm interested in, Keith, this year is, and Posse is, Riley Moss, is he going to come back a better football player? I think he is. I have confidence that he is. I think last year showed a lot about Riley Moss. Hey, they put him out in the field. They seen what he had. For the most part, he was productive. So Riley Moss, weakest link. I don't think he's a weakest link. But he certainly, I think, needs to take a step up this year for sure.
That cornerback room is kind of like the running back room, and with Chris Abrams-Drain also in this whole mix. And I love what Chris Abrams-Drain is able to bring.
Yeah.
Riley Moss Jahdae Barron, McMillan, PS2. And it brings me to a name that's still on this roster, but it just shows you how quickly, like, one game can change your whole arc. Damari Mathis used to be a huge part of this team, and now we don't even talk about him anymore. He's all but pretty much gone off this roster as far as most minds are concerned. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I like Damari Mathis. It's wonderful when you get to go down to training camp and you get to interact a little bit with some of these guys too. So, again, I like Damari Mathis. Wish all the best for him. But man, talk about a guy that's not only, I would say, more than an uphill battle. He's hoping, he's praying, he's got to stand out more than anybody. Because when you have guys like Chris Abrams-Drain breathing down the neck of Riley Moss, Jahdae Barron, McMillan, it is going to be a very competitive room, but it also feels like behind PS2, it feels like the running back room where there's a lot of questions of who's going to be that guy. Is it going to be the standout rookie? Is it going to be the guy that, fulfilled the position for the most of the time last year and was the lockdown guy until he got injured? So the guy that was in the slot, can he move around? How are these pieces and parts going to be used by the defense? Kind of like how Sean Payton's going to use, the running backs in this offense. It's going to be interesting to see how that part plays out and to see if they can find the mix to get back to the point of this episode, Trevor, to be a Super Bowl contender. Because you got to find the right mix and you got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out quick. You got to have those guys in position. And yeah, you got to have some depth. But you got to figure out those guys, and you got to get them locked in. You played football. I played a little bit of football. There's the teammates in the huddle, Trevor. The guys that you're looking across from every single time, the guys that you really rely on. There's going to be the guys that shuffle in and out. The guys that you look across and you're like, you got my back, you got my back, you got my back. Let's go get this. That means a lot. Figuring that out soon, if you're going to be a Super Bowl contender, is big in my opinion. And that's one position that I do think there is a little bit of figuring out to be done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of depth, though, at cornerback for the first time in a long time. And I think adding Jahdae Barron to the secondary, I think is going to be huge for this team. I think he's really impressive on film, Keith. And for anybody in the posse, if you can go watch Jahdae Barron, he's just one of my favorite cornerbacks in this entire draft from this past season. But I mean, just the amount of depth they were able to add. When we talk about, this guy needs to step up, there's question marks, yes, but I think cornerback and that wide receiver, this team's got a lot of depth. More depth than we give it credit for. And so for me, that's something I really love to see, because cornerbacks in the NFL, Keith, and George Payton has alluded to as well, it's a premium position. Pastor Tan, if you want an example, that's an example right there. Prime example. Got paid big bucks, big money at a premium position. And I think that there's something to be said where Denver is not, and the Broncos are not afraid to invest in that position. And so at cornerback this year, they were able to do that. And I love being able to add more depth to the team, because CJ Abrams-Drain now, Keith, is probably your fourth cornerback on this roster right now.
Yeah.
Now he don't have to be that number 3 cornerback on this roster. I mean, you have, I guess it would be number 5, right? I mean, you have PS2, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, Jahdae Barron, number 5. Yeah. He's your number 5, your 5th corner on this team right now, out on the outside. I think there's something to be said with that.
Yeah. And it'll beg questions of 53-man roster and who makes it and who's exposed and how many guys can you keep on. Like our good friend and fellow horseman is coming in here and he's asking as well. He's asking, do you guys have PJ Locke making the 53-man roster? He says, I don't. Do you think PJ Locke has been pushed all the way off the 53 at this point, man, with the additions we've brought to this roster?
I don't think he's been pushed all the way off, Keith. I will say I think it's going to be a battle in the secondary, because is this the year we see JL Skinner start to make that push? Do we talk about surprise, players coming back better? Is there a surprise in the safety room where and is there a scenario out there where JL Skinner comes back a better player, maybe makes this roster over PJ Locke? I think it remains to be seen. I mean, PJ Locke, by any means, there's a reason Denver went out there and got Hufanga in free agency. PJ Locke wasn't good enough at safety last year. Can he be a backup? That remains to be a question. But I'm going to be curious to see, do we see more competition from Devon Key? Do we see more competition from JL Skinner to push PJ Locke this year? Because it could save Denver some money on the cap.
Yeah, Devon Key actually got some significant snap counts last year as well. People don't necessarily equate that, but yeah, Devon Key was out there quite a bit. It does beg the question, man. It'll be a great question. Good evening, Jody, from Michael Ronquillo, and good evening to Kenny from Mr. Ronquillo. Kenny, we did answer the question. I think at least Trevor answered the question. If there was anybody that was on the hot seat, if J.K. Dobbins came in, it would probably be Audric Estime. That's the answer that Mr. Michael Ronquillo came up with as well. Well, I guess it really comes down to it, man. We only got a few more minutes before we got to wrap up the show, so I do got to get your concerns maybe first. Maybe give me a top concerns, and then tell me, do we have the ability to overcome those concerns that you have to be that Super Bowl contending roster like this whole episode is about, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, some of my concerns, offensively, where does this offense look in year 3 of Sean Payton, year 2 of Sean Payton and Bo Nix? Where is this offense at? I think for me is a big question mark this year. Can they be able to move the football and move it a lot more consistently and find ways to move the football more consistently? Defensively, I think it's going to be, hey, inside linebacker. Can Dre Greenlaw, can Alex Singleton stay healthy? What does this defensive line look like this year? Is it Wazirike? Can he make more of a push this year to maybe get more starting snaps in there? Because we know that Denver likes to rotate their defensive linemen around a little bit. Can Wazirike take that next step and maybe make a push to get on the field a little bit more? Because Denver didn't add a lot of defensive line, and especially interior defensive linemen, this offseason. So we shall see how that pans out. But for me, there's question marks in this team. I mean, we talked about the injuries. We talked about the offense. Defensively, can this defense be able to step up in another year with VJ at the helm as your defensive coordinator? Can you replicate what you did last year, or maybe even a little bit better? Because at times we did see this defense break down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Can they be a little bit more consistent? Now, the stats won't show that, but you can watch film and kind of get an idea. That'll be something I watch out for. Also, special teams. I mean, again, you lost Riley Moss. We'll see what Crawshaw can do. But can you be a better special teams unit? How will this special teams unit look under new special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi? Those are some of my concerns.
Fair enough. Well, those concerns aside, are those concerns that you think this team can overcome enough through this season, through this competitive AFC West division, heck, through a competitive AFC for that matter, if you want to just put it out there, and push through the playoffs and possibly be in contention for a Super Bowl as they make their run?
Also, I also want to mention another concern, Keith. I'm not trying to be picky, but also, and this is it's not a concern. It's more of a question that needs to be, I think, answered.
Okay.
Other than Courtland Sutton, who's going to step up in this wide receiver room? Because I think you're going to need more than just Courtland Sutton. Is it Troy Franklin? Is it Devon Vele? Is it Pat Bryant? I mean, somebody in this wide receiver room, your young wide receiver room, a lot of depth. Who's going to step up and be that next big target for Bo Nix? I think it's got to be a question that we've got to ask as well. But for me, Keith, to answer your question, is this team a Super Bowl contender this season? And if not, when can they be? As soon as they can possibly be. For me this year, I think, Keith, it's about taking steps. I think the whole Sean Payton era, when he came to Denver, it was about taking steps. Yes, of course you want to win it all. Of course, anybody would want to win it all. But I think you got to take those necessary steps to do so. For me, Keith, I think there's still enough questions around that I think, hey, maybe this season yes, you would love to win it all. And of course, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do win it all. But I think for me, it's about taking that next step of, hey, you got to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
You got to the playoffs last year. You weren't supposed to. This year now, the expectations are different. Now you're supposed to make the playoffs. That next step has got to be you got to start winning playoff games to get there and to be able to win a Super Bowl. So I think for me, I still think they're a year too early to win the Super Bowl. I think that contention window opens up after this season, going into next season, and into the 2026 season, 2027 season. I think that's when that window opens up because you have year 3 of Bo Nix and Sean Payton to figure it out. Bo Nix, now I think, we're over that whole sophomore slump, which again, I don't believe the whole sophomore slump anyways. We'll see how it happens. Bo Nix is very smart. Football IQ is through the roof with him. But for me, Keith, I think it's still a year too early to talk Super Bowl contention for the Denver Broncos, but it's about taking that next step and getting playoff wins in the playoffs and be able to handle those difficult atmospheres that you're going to be able to have to go through.
That's fair, man. That is fair. And I would typically 100% be on board with you, Trevor. You know how, man, you lock up. I find me and Trevor and what we say, me referring to lockstep way too often because I feel like I'm in lockstep with Trevor. But I'm going to differ here, man. We brought in leaders. Dre Greenlaw is a leader. Talanoa Hufanga is a leader. Pat Bryant was a captain. Jahdae Barron was a captain. RJ Harvey was a captain. We brought in leaders to this team in a culture that's already being developed. Then we add in pieces like Evan Ingram, obviously needed piece on this team as well. This team, I'm going to rate it in 2 different ways. Super Bowl contender? Absolutely. I see no reason why this team can't be a contender in the AFC West. I see no reason why they either A, don't end up winning it or getting a wild card. I see no reason when they get into the playoffs that they can't win a game. And if you end up winning 1 game, there ain't no reason you can't win 2 or 3. I'll be like LeBron James, or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. No, there's no reason at that point that luck doesn't hit your stride and you don't go there. Serious Super Bowl contender before week 1 starts, that might be a little bit too early. But contender nonetheless. I love the pieces that they put together. They've continued to build this team slowly, steadily, putting the right pieces in place, getting the offensive line in place for whatever quarterback was going to be your franchise quarterback. Huge. Starting to add the weapons, getting the tight end, getting the running back. This defense, adding Jahdae Barron, of all things, in the first round, when this defense was already one of the tops. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. I don't know how many more pieces you need to start adding before you start saying this team should be considered to be a Super Bowl contender. Serious Super Bowl contender, like top 3, top 4, top 5. Well, okay, now that's a little bit different. But this team is going to be in contention for a Super Bowl in my mind, and I think it's in contention in the minds of the players and the coaches and this ownership. I think we're headed in the right direction, so much in the fact that that's idealistically in the range of everyone in that building. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah,
that's where I'm standing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do, are a Super Bowl contender this year. I just say contender, yes. Like, is there a small chance they can get to the Super Bowl? Absolutely, there is. And if you're a player, you're a coach, that should absolutely be the goal. And for fans out there, absolutely should be the goal. Just for me, I think there's still questions out there like, hey, is Nick Bonito still that elite edge rusher that he was this past season? there's just different questions. This wide receiver room, other than Cortland Sutton, what else do you have? This running back room, we just talked about it. And defensively, I think there's more answers defensively than offensively. For me, I think the concern, Keith, honestly, is on the offensive side of the ball. I got to see more. Got to see more growth. We got to see more growth from this offense than what they've done last season. And we've seen growth from this offense, but we got to see more. It's got to get better. I love the defense, and I think A. Rome just said it right here. Defense is Super Bowl caliber, absolutely. And I think he just hit that. They just hit the nail on the coffin right there. The offense is playoff caliber. The offense, it seems like a little bit tick behind. It's got to get there. It's got to be more consistent. This team can't just be led by this defense. They got to see more growth from the offensive side of the ball and see more just all the way around. Playmakers, Bo Nix, need to continue to see him grow and develop. But I just think that for me, that's where I'm at. You got to start winning playoff games and still get that playoff feel. I think before you get that Super Bowl feel, it takes a couple steps to get there. But once you get there, you're on that mountaintop and you're able to have that contention window for multiple years. That's the hope anyways.
Fair enough, man. I'm going to press the rewind on this episode. Going to go all the way back to the very beginning. It's just OTAs. Mm-hmm. Don't get too excited about what you hear, what you see, what's being publicized about OTAs. The rubber's going to hit the road here pretty dang soon. Training camp is a big step. And then next thing you know, it's preseason and regular season, and we're right into the thick of it. But again, I mean, Albert O was a big, big headline about this time last year. And we all know where Albert O ended up being in the end. Again, I just don't. Trevor, going back to the very beginning, man, guys running around with their helmets only with nobody defending them. It's easy to get excited, but the rubber is going to hit the road, and I think this team is ready to go. I'm loving what this team is about. We went through some of these hard years, Trevor. I know Broncos country, you went through some of these hard years. Bad coaches, maybe ownership wasn't 100% there. Front office was kind of messy, maybe, with everything that was going on at the time. You're not just kind of meandering through the NFL world, playing mediocre. And then everything changed, and everything's changing quick. And maybe that's why I'm bought into this idea that we can be Super Bowl contenders. But I know one thing, man. We've had a fantastic episode, Trevor, man. I got to get your final thoughts before we get out of here.
Absolutely. And Keith, for me, one last point here. There's no doubt about it, whether this team's a Super Bowl contender or not. This team is up on the uprise. I think we can all agree with that. This team has got so much going for it in a lot of different ways than we can even fathom right now. Ownership. It starts with ownership. In sports just in general, starts with ownership. They've been fantastic given, facilities, upgrading facilities, giving players safety, upgrading the turf, doing whatever it takes to be able to put a winning product on the field consistently. And so big shout out to ownership. Broncos have the best ownership in sports just in general. And then with Sean Payton bringing that culture change, huge for this team. I mean, this team wasn't even expected to make the playoffs. What were they able to last year, Keith? Remind me, was it 6 games they were projected to win last season?
Yeah.
And they made the playoffs. A playoff
6.5, I think.
Yeah, 6.5. Yeah. And they had the over. And it wasn't even close. I mean, this team was a playoff team last year. Regardless, this team is on the uprise, no matter if they're a Super Bowl contender this year or not. This team can continue to grow and get back to those glory days where this team was a Super Bowl contender. And I think that's something to hang your hat on, Keith. But love the posse. We had a couple new people come in, and just welcome to the channel. Welcome to what we do. We tell the truth, and we're here for the ups and we're here for the downs all season long. So just really appreciate everybody. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And thanks for watching live and after the fact. Stay safe out there, and as always, go Broncos.
Absolutely, man. We'll sign off from Trevor. I'm not done though yet. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. The posse members, You guys were popping tonight, man. Thank you to all the new faces. That's always great to say. And thank you to all the old faces who came in here. Thanks for everybody who was able to drop stars, man. It's off season, and as Pearl's coming in and saying, great show, looking forward to football. That's what we're all looking forward to, right? Looking forward to this Denver Broncos team hitting the field, being dominant like we know that they can be. Like you said, Trevor, this team has turned around and we're excited about where they're going. Different from years past, right? Different from years past. And now the projection is going forward. Great things to come. We go live every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. if you're new. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Heck, just, I don't know. We're every place. We're everywhere. Just look for us. We appreciate you so much. Oh, by the way, we also have emergency podcasts. We've had, 1, 2, 3 former Super Bowl champions so far grace our podcast. Love to get a few more on here. You never know. Those might be in the future as well. That being said, we appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of us, but we do got to get running. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, I should say. Always get my days mixed up, Trevor. Sorry. But we do only get out of here one way only. You know it. Keep your boots in the stirrups. Keep your guns in the holsters. And, of course, always keep the Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next time, we're going to get out of here. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Stay safe, all right?